Welcome to Pale Blue Pod, the astronomy podcast for people who are overwhelmed by the universe but want to be its friend.
Yeah, and it's us, two friends. I'm Corinne Caputo. I'm a writer and a funny person and a friend to the universe and a friend to my co-host.
That's me. We are friends. We just got to catch up for the first time in a while. It was nice.
And it's all a secret.
Raccoon hands. I'm doing the mischievous raccoon hands over here. I, with the raccoon hands, am Dr. Moiya McTier. I'm an astrophysicist, a folklorist, and a friend to the universe. And I am also I was once a member of the American Astronomical Society, which is what we're talking about this week. And we are talking about it from a jazz club on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, because that is where the American Astronomical Society is having its annual meeting this year. So we have a bit of like a double header for you folks. We're going to talk about the society itself in this episode, and then the meeting that I attended this week on the next episode.
Yay, I'm so excited to learn about both. And I'm very excited to be here at the Jazz Club.
Do you like jazz, Corinne?
I did not for a really long time. It made me feel crazy.
Crazy?
I feel like sometimes you hear like a version of jazz and you're like, there's no pattern here for me to lock into or feel comforted by. And that was not it. And one of my roommates when I lived in Brooklyn is an incredible musician, and he would play jazz a lot, and I really started to love it, and it made me feel like very, like a dinner party is really missing something if it's not playing. I also could not live closer to a jazz club, and I have not been to it, so this is making me feel like I should go.
Well, sometimes you have to go to a jazz club in a city that is not your home to really appreciate and motivate your attendance at the jazz club right next to you.
I agree.
I don't like improvisational jazz, most of it. There was an experience I had that kind of opened my eyes to it. I went to a lecture by physicist Stefan Alexander, and he's a jazz musician and a physicist, a cosmologist, and he gave a lecture where he compared like the nature of the cosmos to a jazz ensemble, and he did a live performance, and that was pretty sick.
That's really cool. Yeah, I should clarify, like, improvisational jazz, I think, is what makes me feel overwhelmed. But
same.
Like, jazz covers of songs I love, and also just regular jazz songs I love.
Yeah, and I agree. It has a time and place. Like, a dinner party is kind of perfect for jazz, where it's something you can, it's interesting enough, but not too interesting to distract you from the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's been Corinne and Moiya about jazz.
On jazz.
On jazz.
I'm remembering my dance classes as a kid were jazz. Well, this dance style was jazz, but the songs we did our recitals to were like All Star by Smash Mouth, like Waiting for Tonight by J-Lo.
Yeah, I guess you're not expecting like 7-year-olds to know any jazz musicians. Like, they're not trying to jam to Louis Armstrong or something.
But also, I didn't know those songs at the time either, so I think you just had to buy the jazz shoes.
Okay. And make sure you have the hands for it.
Exactly. We would end every dance with those.
Now it's time for Corinne and Moiya on the American Astronomical Society.
Yes.
We're going to dig into the history and like the modern structure of the society. What does AAS do in the modern day? But let's go back in time to its founding. It was established in 1899, which means that this year, 2024, is the 125th anniversary of AAS. And they were very proud of that this week at the meeting.
Yeah, 125 is a big year. Or a big anniversary, rather.
Yeah, I mean, this country isn't very old, so having this professional society that's over a century old, not impressive in many other parts of the world, but in the U.S., that's an old thing here. By the time the AAS was founded in the late 1800s, there were already like a handful of observatories around the country. There was one at Harvard. It was the Harvard College Observatory. The Smithsonian had one. They have since merged. And there were a couple others scattered throughout the country. But there wasn't really like a professional astronomer or astrophysicist organization. Some disciplines like chemistry and geology had very recently established professional societies where these researchers could come together and talk about their work or form collaborations to do future research. Astronomy didn't have something like that. And part of that is because astronomers weren't necessarily working at the same level as a professional research scientist as like chemists and geologists. Most of them were primarily working as teachers, and if they did any sort of research, it would have been kind of wealthy people who had the time and the resources to go and observe things through these telescopes that like you often had to travel to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There were a couple journals that existed already, like the Astronomical Journal, but not a lot, and they didn't have the reputation that they do today, obviously. And at that time, with all of this kind of official organizing going on in the sciences, there were two people, George Ellery Hale and Simon Newcomb, who wanted to push to have a professional astronomy society. George Ellery Hale was kind of the front runner in pushing for this society. He organized a couple of meetings. One was the Conference of Astronomers and Astrophysicists at the Yerkes Observatory dedication in 1897. And before that, he had put together some meetings for mathematicians and astronomers to get together. And he wanted to continue organizing these meetings. But he figured, if I'm going to keep doing that, then we might as well have like a professional society. And we might as well get buy-in from other people in other parts of the country. Namely, like, let's get the East Coast folks involved, because that was where a lot of the research institutions were, like the heavy-hitting research institutions.
Mm-hmm. I love that project management intuition.
You gotta be strategic.
Yeah, we need one hub of information here.
I've seen a picture of that first meeting in 1897, and you can see that there are about 60 people in attendance. They all look very cute with their like overcoats. There are a few women you can see if you squint your eyes and look in the picture. They're in the middle. And there were some women working as astronomers at Harvard at the time. They were called computers at the time, and they were doing a lot of calculation-based work. The second meeting was held at Harvard the next year in 88. That was potentially a strategic move to get especially a man named Edward Pickering like involved with these plans for the society. Edward Pickering was the director of the Harvard College Observatory, and those women who were working as computers are sometimes also referred to as Pickering's harem, which I really don't like. But they were employed by him. I don't know anything about him as a person. I really don't. And so these people that I've mentioned, Edward Pickering, George Hale, Simon Newcomb, plus some others, a man named George Comstock, who was at Washburn Observatory. There was a physicist named Edward Morley. They all gathered together to draft what would be the first constitution for this professional society of astronomers and astrophysicists and space enthusiasts. They invited more people to join the society. They carefully hand-selected a few more people. They wanted the disciplines to be very balanced because at the time there was some beef between astronomers and astrophysicists.
Really?
Yes, there was a stark divide, and we're going to get to that when I talk about the name of the society. Notice so far I've just been calling it the Society. It didn't have a name until 1915. So,
yeah, I love how spooky the society sounds, though, so I'm kind of in.
Very ominous. So they're trying to create this delicate balance. They end up choosing people so that there would be 3 classical astronomers. Simon Newcomb was, by many people's reckoning, the foremost American astronomer at the time. There were 3 astrophysicists. George Hale considered himself an astrophysicist, and these were people who wanted the study of the universe to rely fundamentally on physical laws and the methods that you would use in a physics laboratory. And then there were 3 straight physicists who were invited to be a part of this. And together, these 9, let's be honest, white men got together, looked over this constitution, and ratified it in a single day. They were like, yep, this looks great. Let's make this society happen. And then in 1899, the third meeting was held, and it was the first official meeting of this society. It was back at Yerkes Observatory in Wisconsin, and they officially founded what they called at the time the Astronomical and Astrophysical Society of America.
Okay. We've got a name?
We've got a name. A and ASA is how they would have written it.
Okay, A and ASA.
Yes, astrophysicists and astronomers, because there's still this stark divide. When it first formed, there were 114 members of the society, and together those members did a couple things at that first meeting. They voted that they should publish the reports of their meetings and the abstracts of their papers in the journal Science, which already existed. They set their membership dues. Everyone would have to pay $2 a year to be a member of A and ASA.
Okay.
And at that first meeting, 19 different papers were presented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Manageable.
Very manageable. They swore in their first officers at that meeting. Simon Newcomb was the first president of A and ASA. He served from 1899 to 1904. Now, in that initial constitution that those handful of dudes wrote together, there were no term limits for leadership in A and ASA. And so Simon Newcomb just was the president as long as he wanted to be. After him, Edward Pickering took over, and he was the president from 1905 until he died in 1919, which happened to be the same year that the International Astronomical Union was founded in Belgium. Pickering seemed to be a very opinionated president. He believed very strongly that the society shouldn't be split into professional and amateur astronomers. He didn't see there to be any need to have multiple levels of membership. He also really wanted this society, which by the time he died was called the American Astronomical Society. It became that in 1915. He also firmly believed that the American Astronomical Society, which it was called by the time he died, should fund research, that they should provide small research grants to especially kind of fringe research projects that wouldn't be able to get funding through more traditional means. At the time, the American Association for the Advancement of Science was a thing already, so was the National Academy of Sciences, and I think National Science Foundation probably was founded around this time too. Since the first president, Simon Newcomb, the membership of AAS has elected 50 presidents.
Oh, okay.
If I counted the number of rows on the website correctly. Out of those roughly 50, how many do you think were women?
Oh my gosh. 5?
Corinne, the last 6 AAS presidents have been women.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Looking through, it seems there are at least 10 women who have been presidents. The president-elect, so she was just elected to be the president in 2023 is when we held our elections. She won't be president until 2025, I think. She is the first Black woman to be elected president. Her name is Dr. Dara Norman. She's from Chicago. She's incredible. I included an interview she did in the research notes for this week for patrons.
Yay.
She's a lovely person, and I'm so excited that she was elected. I was not a member when elections took place, so I did not get to vote for her, but I totally freaking would have. Back to the naming thing. It was not named the American Astronomical Society until 1915 because astronomers and astrophysicists did not believe they were in the same field. Astronomers were the established people. Their job was to observe the celestial bodies, so the planets, the fixed stars, the sun, the moon. They were to observe them and use the laws of motion that we have talked about in a previous episode to understand them better and then predict their motion and try to figure out why those laws apply. And then there were astrophysicists who were coming in and trying to apply laboratory astrophysics methods to the study. And for some reason, it was seen as this upstart science that wasn't going to last a long time. Astrophysics.
Oh, so interesting.
People did not have faith in it at the time. Newcomb himself said in 1901, he was delivering an address at one of the meetings of the society, quote, "It is supposed to be distinguished from astronomy, it being astrophysics. in that it is concerned with the physics of cosmical bodies in general. The cultivators of the older astronomy have sometimes looked askance upon this youthful competitor as upon one that has not yet attained the dignity of the older science.
Interesting.
And so it ended up being called the American Astronomical Society instead of the American Astrophysical Society, because Simon Newcomb and other people who supported him were like, astronomy's more established. We don't want people to laugh at us. If we call ourselves the Astrophysical Society, we will be a joke.
Right, right. I'm trying to think of what the modern day thing is, and God, I hope it's not AI, but that's really funny that they were at odds. Yeah. Especially now because there's so much overlap, or at least, I don't know, the communities seem to overlap.
Yeah, today they're used pretty interchangeably. An astronomy department and an astrophysics department at the university, like the distinction between them doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I tend to think of the difference as an astronomer is an expert in the night sky. Mm-hmm. Like, they know the constellations, they know what stars are visible when, they can tell you, like, if you can point to something and they can identify it. That's an astronomer. An astrophysicist can, like, do math to describe how those things move and what they'll do in the future. So I don't really call myself an astronomer because I don't feel qualified to call myself an astronomer. Sure. I'm terrible to go stargazing with.
But that is how I was imagining the difference, too. Like, an astronomer can kind of maps like what I'm looking at, but an astrophysicist can give me more of like a why, or like theorize about the whys. And I think because at the time it was so much theorizing about the whys, it felt a lot less legitimate. And it was. I mean, this is what, 1915? We didn't know that the Milky Way was one galaxy of billions until 1920. Yeah, so that'll do it.
It was a very young field. That's the history. Now we're 125 years later. AAS has kind of ballooned into this giant bureaucracy. Initially, it was a handful of dudes. It was the executive council of the president, the vice president, and then some like deputy officers. And now there's a whole governance structure with bylaws that you can read through if you want, because it is a nonprofit organization. It's a 501c3, so you should be able to see its like budget stuff and how it is governed, and you can, because I looked it up, and it is in the research notes for this episode, but I can also just tell you the info. In 2017, AAS put in a brand new governance structure. They had put together this task force to analyze how other nonprofits are run and how the existing or like the old governance structure actually impacted the society. And the task force put recommendations together about how AAS should be structured going forward. And it was a unanimous vote to change over to those recommendations. And so in 2017, for the first time in more than 50 years, they switched some things over. They replaced the previous AAS council. That would be like the president. There were 2 vice presidents. There were deputy officers. There were some trustee officers. They switched that AAS council, which had a lot of decision-making power, over onto more of a governing board. Okay. There are 11 members of this governing board. It's still the president, a couple vice presidents, and all those things. There's an executive officer. We'll get to who that is later, but I think the executive officer's job is to be like the outward-facing face of AAS, and the president's job is like the inward-facing face.
Sure.
The president of AAS is an astrophysicist. Dr. Norman is like an established researcher. The executive officer is Kevin Marvel, and I think he's like a business guy.
Okay, this sounds like a lot of companies that are like, there's the creative team and then the like Silicon Valley money guy.
Yep, exactly. Those are the decision-making people of AAS. And then there are also committees that can recommend things to the decision-making people of AAS. And there are too many committees to name or count. That's like the executive side of AAS. And then the research interests of AAS are divided into different research divisions, and there are 6 of those. And so the way that decisions actually get made in AAS is through something called the Strategic Assembly, which is a combination of the governing board, plus the chairs of the different committees, plus the heads of the different science divisions.
I love that name, Strategic Assembly. It feels like a Captain Planet or like a childhood thing with like, you got to get the team together.
Strategic Assembly. I guess that's what happens when your executive officer's name is Kevin Marvel.
I was going to say, it sounds like a Kevin Marvel thing. Allegedly.
Allegedly. This is all thanks to the task force, which was made up of volunteers from the community.
Cool.
Those divisions that are the different research sectors of AAS, there are 6 of them, and they came about in 1968. In 1968, the Society received several proposals from members to split into different divisions because they were like, there are too many types of astronomers and astrophysicists. Our research interests are actually quite broad. We need more specialized governance for this. So they split into these divisions, and now here are the 6 of them in the order of their founding. So there's the Division for Planetary Sciences in 1968. That was the very first one. And then in 1969, same year we went to the moon, very active time for astronomy.
Yeah, big year.
And then right after, funding for astronomy, NASA funding plummets.
Yeah, and I mean, they stopped going to the moon, too, so...
Yeah. So 1969, we get the Division on Dynamical Astronomy, the High Energy Astrophysics Division, and the Solar Physics Division. Then nothing for a little bit. In 1980, we get the Historical Astronomy Division.
Oh, cool.
Which I think is very exciting.
Like chronicling or like capturing the history.
Yeah, the history of astronomy and of the society. And so all of the information that I got for this episode comes from resources that the Historical Astronomy Division put together. They have projects where they're trying to get like oral stories from researchers. They have a cool genealogy project that I'll talk about next week. Like there's very interesting stuff happening at the Astronomy Division. That's 1980. And then in 2012, we get the Laboratory Astrophysics Division, because historically, astronomy is an observational science. And only in the last couple of decades have we really been able to design experiments that are in any way replicating things or conditions in space. Yeah. So you need like very, very powerful instruments.
Yeah.
Those are the divisions, which are the research interests, and then the committees that help recommend things to the decision makers. There are so many of them. They can cover anything from organizing a meeting. So you could have a committee to organize the meeting. You could have a committee that advocates for specific identity groups, and there are a lot of them, and I'm going to name most of them because I think they're important. You could even have committees that their job is to make sure that space environments are protected from contamination. Like there's a space environment protection committee at the AAS. But some of these identity ones, there's the Sexual Orientation and Gender Minorities in Astronomy Working Group, or SIGMA, SGMA, very, very cute acronym. There's the Committee on the Status of Minorities in Astronomy, CSMA. I was actually on the board. Oh. I was on the committee for CSMA a couple years ago when they were trying to get younger people involved. The CSMA is one of the most active committees at AAS. And then there's the CSWA, which is the Committee on the Status of Women in Astronomy. There's a working group for accessibility and disability within astronomy. And then there's this very special committee called the Site Visit Oversight Committee. And their job is to visit institutions. They might visit a department, they might visit a research group, they visit a site, and they assess its culture.
Oh, okay.
So any institution can astronomy institution can request that the AAS send people from this committee to assess their culture and write a report with recommendations for how to make it more welcoming. It is still very bureaucratic.
Yeah,
it is
sure.
still, they're in next week's episode, I'm going to recommend like a private consulting company that does something very similar to this, but better because it's not held up by bureaucracy. But I love that they're trying. I love that they put this together because it's a real problem in academia. There are dangerous departments that don't have good reputations, and like they need to be taught how to do better.
Yeah. Is it more welcoming to like keep the academics in academia or just to get new people or both?
Well, the problem, Corinne, is that you can't kick people out because of tenure.
Oh, right. Of course.
There's no retirement age in academia. Yeah. And once people become established in their field, it's like the people who are still working now are like in their 70s, are not retiring, and the university literally cannot push them out.
Yeah.
So there's a huge problem right now in academia broadly. In astronomy, I was told when I was a student that maybe 1 in 10 students would get a job as a tenured track professor at a research institution, like a research university.
Yeah.
1 in 10. And then there are teaching universities, there are data scientist jobs, there are other things, but there are not enough jobs in academia for the number of people we're pushing through these programs.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Hey, it's me, Corinne, and I wanted to take a minute to thank our patrons who support the show every single month. So thank you to our Sun-like stars, Sharon Llewellyn, Lissa, Scott Reynolds, Ian O'Leary, and Tom T. And a big thanks to our latest pre-main sequence star, Rosie. And you can support us, hear your name on the show, make it to our patron star chart, all by supporting us on Patreon for just about $1 an episode. And if you sign up for an annual membership, you get a 13% discount. You can find the star chart, Patreon info, and more at our website, palebluepod.com, or by going right to patreon.com/palebluepod. And if you can't support us financially, that's fine. We love you very much. You can review the show on whatever app you use, tell your friends and family about us, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all that. And before you go, if you're loving Pale Blue Pod, and especially if you're loving Dr. Moiya McTier, you must give her other podcast, Exolore, a listen. If you didn't know, Moiya is also a folklorist, so if you've ever wondered about what life would be like on different planets or how writers create your favorite fictional worlds, Moiya has the facts for you. On Exolore, Dr. Moiya McTier explores fictional worlds by building them with a panel of expert guests, interviewing professional world builders, and reviewing the merits of worlds that have already been built. You'll learn, you'll laugh, you're going to gain an appreciation for how special our planet really is, I promise. Subscribe today by searching Exolore in your podcast app or by going to exolorepod.com.
The members of the society, if you read the bylaws of AAS, are those who, quote, are deemed capable of preparing an acceptable paper upon some subject of astronomy or a related branch of science. So their membership is just people who can write a science paper.
That feels like me, though. I feel like that could be
you.
me.
Absolutely. Yes, this is the thing. There are some workarounds because the criteria are that you must meet 2 of the following. You must possess a graduate degree in astronomy or related field, so a master's or a PhD in astronomy or physics or geology or something related. Or you must have a refereed publication in a recognized international scientific journal.
Okay.
Or you must have received a nomination from a member in good standing, which is how students do it.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So if there is a member who wants to nominate you to the society, you can become a full member.
Maybe me. Maybe I do it.
You.
Just kidding.
Corinne just did the sauciest little tuck of hair behind her ear.
I'm tucking my little hair behind my ear.
Could be me.
Could be me. So you're saying there's a shot?
Yes. That's how I became a member when I was a student, because I did not yet have a degree and I had not yet published a paper, but my advisor nominated me. And then you have to get approved by like some committee or something. You have to pay for it. Full members pay about $200 per year in dues, plus division-specific fees, so like $20 for if you want to also be a member of the Planetary Sciences Division or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then subscription fees to the different journals that AAS publishes. So all in all, if you're a full member and you're like a professor or something, you will probably spend like $250 to $300 a year to be a member. If you're a student, it's cheaper.
Sure.
If you are retired, it's cheaper. Things like that. And like I said, they're a 501c3. You can look up their financial records. I did want to know how much they made last year.
Yeah, I do.
$19.5 million in revenue.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so much more than I would have guessed.
I know. And that's from dues of the members. That's from investments for sure. But I think mostly it's from publication fees. Because, Corinne, I don't know if you knew this, but you have to pay to get your papers into an academic journal here in the U.S., at least for these journals.
Did not know that. That feels like
predatory.
Yeah, and also the antithesis of like the point.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, a lot of like research in general might be like, maybe not in astronomy, but like privately funded with someone with an agenda. But wow, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. A pay to play.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about my papers in the past, and all of them were published in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society, which is a British publication, because it's free to publish there.
So if you're publishing in the U.S. and there's like multiple authors on a paper, are they like Venmoing each other? What's the behind the scenes there?
Great question. Makes me think we need to do like an episode about publishing.
Yeah.
But it's per article submitted, not per author. So if you have like a large author list, you just have to pay the fee once to publish.
But we're all sending Alan $5.
This is the thing. Being the first author means you get the glory of the citation. Every time that paper is cited, it's your name, but you also get all the responsibility.
Sure.
So you have to submit it. You have to communicate with the referees. You have to pay the publication fees, and those usually just come out of your overhead. Actually, we should do a whole funding in academia episode. Those come out of your like either grant money or your like the part of your salary from your university that's set aside for operations like this. There are so many different ways to get funded in academia, but the individual person is not like paying from their private bank account.
Damn, I wanted to know about the gossip. I wanted there to be drama in the like, you know, so-and-so never Venmo'd me.
Oh, there is publishing drama, but not like that. It's like, I did all of this research, and yet why am I not on the author list?
Yes.
Or that person did no work. Why are they on the author list, especially when they're a known abuser in the field? I mean, this happened several times recently.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, there's drama, but not Venmo drama.
Yeah, not the kind of drama that is fun to hear.
Yeah. So that's how much they made. Would you like to guess how much they spent, or do you think they are operating at a loss or a gain?
I'm going to take a swing and say a loss, because that's just, I think, how most places run.
Yes. They are operating at a slight loss because last year they spent $19.8 million. So $300,000 more than they earned. But they do have $26.3 million in assets.
Assets.
And I want to know what these assets are, Corinne.
Yeah, they have like a house in Rhode Island on the beach or something.
Like, what assets are these? And then there are some liabilities. There's like $11 million that they owe other people. And I think one of these big things, because a huge chunk of that cost is putting together these meetings for the society, people in the field have been complaining since I've been in the field about this contract that AAS has with Gaylord Convention Centers. where apparently, like, there's this contract that they are locked into for like 20 years where every other year they have to host the meeting at a Gaylord Convention Center. I don't know if those are the exact details, but like we keep having to go back, and the rates are ridiculous. So these meetings are super expensive because of this old contract we're locked into. And the registration for these meetings for a non-member, which I was when I registered, would have been $1,000.
Oh my God.
If you are a registered full member, not a student, you're paying like hundreds of dollars for a registration fee to one of these meetings. They're very expensive.
Yeah. This is not quite the same, but there was a film festival that, I mean, so much of screenwriting is like a pay-to-play model of like, if you're unrepped or if you don't have like Nepo baby connections, it's like, let me pay to enter these contests that are, hopefully you're picking legitimate ones, but there are so many predatory ones. And then there's these like submissions that can culminate in like a film festival or something else. And then you have to like buy this ticket to go to the film festival that your script might have advanced in, but then you still need to like, there's so many tiers to that package, and here's $50 off because you advanced, but you spent those $50 on the submission. Like, it was, I used to keep a spreadsheet of it, and of course, like, the height of me submitting to these things was like when I was the brokest in my life. Yeah, it adds up so fast. It's such a huge chunk of, I mean, and there's an argument of like, but being around your peers in this like industry is invaluable, and like that is true, but like I remember the stress of like paying for this thing, missing work to go to this thing. It's so stressful.
It really is. And this year I paid for it out of my business pocket. You know, like I have my own psychon business, and I paid for it. In the past, my advisor has paid for it, or my university has paid for it. But even that is really stressful because most departments don't pay up front. They make you pay for it.
Yes.
And then you have to get reimbursed.
Yeah.
And it takes months because these universities are old and slow as shit.
Yeah, that upfront, I hate that model.
It's disgusting. And so, like, we really do need to get better about being realistic about what people from different classes face when they're trying to get access to the same types of opportunities as everyone else in these fields.
Yeah.
Luckily, there are some grants. AAS gives out grants. NSF gives out grants. Different like research summer internship programs will give grants that will fund students to go, not with the reimbursement model. Like a lot of these grants will just give you like $1,000 and then you pay out of that. But it's still not great.
No.
And there's a limited number of those. How much do you think Kevin Marvel, the executive officer, like the outward-facing person of AAS, makes a year? I don't think the president makes anything. I think like the people who are on that side of the board are volunteers.
No.
I think so, because I couldn't find the current president, Kelsey Johnson. I couldn't see her on the Financial Insights page that I saw. So I think Kevin Marvel gets paid.
I'm gonna
how
guess
much do
he
you think?
makes like $350,000 because up until like, I don't know, 5 years ago, I thought like I knew you could make millions of dollars, but I completely forgot about the amount of money you can make between like $200K and $1 million.
Yes. Yeah. That
like,
big gap.
Like growing up, I was like, a six-figure salary is like $100,000, and like that's the most money you can make.
I know. Like, $450,000.
No, $500,000.
He makes $455,000 a year.
That is such a different life than mine.
I know. Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
What you would do with that money? Like,
honestly, I'd be like, it's like winning the lottery. I'd be like, I'm gonna pay off all my friends' college debt, and then I'm gonna like buy the house. I'm gonna have a kid.
Gonna buy my mom a house. Like,
yes.
Wild.
That is too much money, maybe. That might be too much money.
Corinne, you're on to something. You're not wrong. Because why does he make $500,000 a year?
I want him to live comfortably the way I want all people to. And I do think there's like a max. It's like you win a prize, you've won. I mean, the problem is not him as much as it is billionaires. However, that's a lot. That's a lot. There's this weird app. It's called Fishbowl. I think it's from like Glassdoor. It's like this career thing and like a forum where people like anonymously post things. And there's like a bowl on it of like copywriters and creative professionals. And I'll get like this Daily Digest email of questions, and somebody's like, "Is $350,000 enough to live?" And I'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" They're like, "Okay, but I sent my kid to private school, and I'm saving for college, and I'm saving for retirement." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?
Get out of here with those problems.
Get out of here with those problems." They're like, "How am I going to have a child on $400,000 a year?" It's like, how are you insane?
If your stomach doesn't drop out of your asshole when you get a medical bill, then you get out of here with those problems.
Exactly. I'm like, can you buy a new pair of jeans without having a heart attack? Can you get a haircut? So insane.
Do you want to know about the demographics of the membership?
I do.
Okay. Prepare yourself, because it's what you expect it is.
Okay.
I found some statistics from 2020 and then a survey of membership from 2021. So in 2020, there were 6,227 United States-based members of the American Astronomical Society. In the past, they have often really emphasized the fact that American Astronomical Society means North and South America, that it means like the continents.
The Americas, yeah.
The Americas. But I do know that other countries in Canada and countries in South America, they have their own societies. Okay. So I think that's less of an emphasis now, but there were 6,000 U.S.-based members, 719 non-U.S.-based members. Anyone can be a member. There are members from South Africa. There are members from all over the world.
Okay.
There is a demographics committee that writes a report on the membership. Their last report was from 2021. They were able to survey half of the membership, or I think it's like they sent it out to half the people responded, so they got a little bit more than a quarter of the membership to respond. But here are some statistics. 71% of the AAS membership has a PhD.
Okay. That's high.
It's very high. So when you walk into these spaces, if you are an astronomer, especially an early career researcher, and you walk into some of these spaces and you feel like overwhelmed or intimidated, as I have definitely in the past, that's not your fault. That's because you were in like the highest concentration of PhDs that anyone should ever be in.
Yeah, that is a really high.
71%. The top 3 and then 4 areas of interest, primary areas of interest that these people indicate are star formation and evolution is number 1. And then galaxy formation and evolution is number 2. And then the interstellar medium. So those are the fields people are really interested in.
Okay.
For some reason.
Huh.
And then exoplanets is number 4, because we all knew I had to look for my girl.
Yes. That's high up there too.
Yeah, it is a very exciting, young-ish field where they're still actively finding like brand new things. So there are a lot of people who are interested in it. They did a bunch of questions that try to gauge what stages of life people are in. Like, are you married? Do you have children at different career stages? They found that current postdocs, so people who have just gotten their PhD within the last like 3 to 5 years, or I guess 1 to 5 years, that current postdocs are much less likely than older academics, people who are currently employed in tenure-track positions, or people who are retired. They're much less likely than those to encourage others to go into the field. So basically, like a bunch of our current postdoc class is super disillusioned with the field and doesn't want to recommend that people follow in their footsteps.
Okay,
which doesn't seem good.
Seems so not optimistic, but I get it. Gender.
Let's get into it. There is a big shift. They kind of broke it down into 2 age groups, people who were born before 1988 and then people who were born after that.
Okay.
Overall, right now, across both of those groups, the AAS membership is about 66% men, 31% women, 2% other option, meaning non-binary, although they didn't explicitly say that in the survey, and then 1% preferred not to respond. But there's a huge shift in these percentages from the older group to the younger group. For example, the non-binary category, less than 1% of people chose that option in the older group, but 5% of people in the younger group chose non-binary.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. In that same time frame, it jumped from 90% of the respondents were married to a third of the respondents were married, which is just like a difference in ages, but I do think it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I do think people are getting married later in life, if at all. And I think all of these numbers show, like, how social expectations have slightly changed.
Slightly changed, yeah. Because I think the typical picture in the past would have been like the tenured professor with his wife and kids at home.
Yes, exactly.
They also asked about disability. 74% of respondents said they had no disability, physical, mental, or otherwise. 86% said that they don't use accessibility aids. That's hearing aids, note takers, mobility aids like walkers or canes. And then of the remaining respondents, the most reported disability was a mental disability. And there were very few people who responded saying that they had a physical disability, especially one that required an accessibility aid. And then when we get to race, it is 81% white, it's 10% Asian, 6% Latinx, 2% Black, and then it's like less than 1% everything else.
Yeah.
It is 83% straight.
Really?
Yeah, 83% responded saying that they were.
I just don't believe this. We're all straight.
All of those statistics about gender and sexuality, they had a quote in the report. They said that it was, quote, basically unchanged from 2018. So we are not getting better. In the last 5 years, we have not gotten better in this field. But this also is totally not representative of who I hang out with in astronomy, because everyone I am seeing this week is Black, brown, or queer.
Yeah, I feel like even the astronomy, the astronaut training guests I had, I feel like race-wise leaned white based on who answered my emails. But I also feel like they were young and queer and not, I don't know, I feel like these numbers paint a picture of a more dated version of what I imagine the field to be like today. But obviously I'm seeing a very specific category. Yeah.
For sure. You're seeing people who want to do SciComm and live in New York City.
Exactly.
So that's definitely not the whole astronomy community. We have a lot of duds. There are some very cool people in this field. I think I know most of the cool ones. And then there are a lot who aren't great, but that's every field.
Yeah. Fair.
I want to talk a little bit about what AAS does. Mostly, I've interacted with them just through this meeting, and that seems to be, in my opinion, the most important thing they do. But they do have a mission statement. The mission of the American Astronomical Society is to, quote, enhance and share humanity's scientific understanding of the universe as a diverse and inclusive astronomical community. The vision of the AAS is to create a world where all people value and benefit from a scientific understanding of our universe. And their values, their listed values are curiosity, integrity, inclusivity, empowerment, and sustainability.
Buzzwords. I hope they're doing it.
Buzzwords. You got it, Corinne. They're a company. They're a business.
Yeah.
They are a corporate machine.
I mean, those things sound great, and I think a lot of companies are like, these are the tenets of us. Maybe this is a better question for next week's app, but I'm curious, what the culture around people who are science communicators, how kind of encouraged or accepted or celebrated that is, because that feels like the mission. But I also know that maybe a hardcore academic is not super into pop sci stuff.
Yeah. That's a great question. I think let's not put it off to next week, because at least on the surface, AAS does like to say they appreciate science communicators. This week at the meeting, I unfortunately didn't get to attend, but there was a session for, quote, astronomy influencers. I couldn't attend because I had something else to do. I was invited. I just want that out there. But different observatories wanted to kind of pick the brains of these like astronomy people who are on social media to figure out how they can more effectively reach the public and kind of to try and form some collaborations there. So they recognize that science communicators are important and valuable, but there is still a culture, less officially, of stigmatizing leaving the field, especially for science communication, because it's seen as like, oh, you couldn't hack research.
But also, it seems like there aren't many roles. So what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? But they glorify research. The people who make it through academia, oftentimes they have family members who are in academia, so they're like second, third generation astrophysicists already. Many of them believe that it is the hardest thing you could possibly do and the most noble thing that you could do, and that if you choose to do anything else, it's because you couldn't cut it.
Rude.
Yeah. I chose an advisor in grad school who valued science communication, so I didn't feel that. But I did feel sometimes like he spent more energy and time with his students who he knew were going to stay in academia, which is like fair. Because I wasn't, and I made that very clear, but it still was noticeable.
And I mean, I guess that makes sense if like he is now creating like future career relationships with people who he might work with down the road, but you still want that kind of like support from an advisor, especially someone who like, you know, you're staying in the field in a different capacity, so you want resources too.
He gave me the support he could that he thought I needed. That's what AAS says they do, but practically, most of what they do is put on this meeting. AAS does give out some small research grants and travel grants, which Pickering pushed for, like way back at the beginning of the society. They also give out prizes. This year at the meeting in the exhibit hall, which I'll talk about next week, they had a huge poster full of different moments in AAS's history to celebrate 125 years. And one of them was a moment where they got their first prize endowed. So the first AAS prize to be endowed, meaning like funds were put into it so that they could give out a prize every year, was the Annie Jump Cannon Award in 1934. And that first year, it was given to Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin, who we haven't done a bio episode on yet, but we will. I think she discovered pulsars.
Ooh.
But then it's been given out every year, and now there are dozens of AAS prizes and lectureships and awards they give out. And publishing. Publishing is another big thing they do. They publish the Astronomical Journal, the Astrophysical Journal, because they got to keep that beef alive.
Yeah.
They publish the Planetary Science Journal, the Bulletin of the AAS, research notes of the AAS, an online publication called AAS Nova, and since 2019, they have published Sky and Telescope magazine. And in 2020, they bought a company that publishes astronomy books. So they are diversifying, they are buying up assets, they are becoming even more of a corporate entity.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that my husband's mom worked at Sky and Telescope in like the 80s or 90s.
Oh, nice.
Don't quote me on that.
Before AAS had their fingers in it.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is before this, but cool magazine.
Yeah, they do cool stuff. Any questions, thoughts, reactions to the ginormity that is the American Astronomical Society?
I did not know it was so old. I'm impressed to learn that. And I'm really excited to learn more about the conference and like what they're doing now.
Yay! All right, then I guess we better head out of this jazz joint, and then we can meet up at the end of the conference so I can tell you what went down.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay, listeners, whether you're listening to jazz or not, please remember that you are space.
Yeah, you are.
Bye.
Pale Blue Pod was created by Moiya McTier and Corinne Caputo with help from the Multitude Productions team. Our theme music is by Evan Johnston, and our cover art is by Shay McMullen. Our audio editing is handled by the incomparable Misha Stanton.
Stay in touch with us and the universe by following @PaleBluePod on Twitter and Instagram, or check out our website, palebluepod.com. We're a member of Multitude, an independent podcast collective and production studio. If you like Pale Blue Pod, you will love the other shows that live on our website at multitude.productions.
If you want to support Pale Blue Pod financially, join our community over at patreon.com/palebluepod. For just about $1 per episode, you get a shout out on one of our shows and access to director's commentary for each episode. The very best way, though, to help Pale Blue Pod grow is to share it with your friends. So send this link to one person who you think will like it, and we will appreciate you for forever.
Thanks for listening to Pale Blue Pod. You'll hear us again next week.
Bye.